It is a miniature masterpiece, carved from soapstone and fired to a ceramic hardness, small enough to be concealed in the palm of the hand. The detail is breathtaking. A majestic, unicorn-like bull, its powerful form rendered with an artist's precision. And above it, a line of elegant, enigmatic symbols. This is the script of the Indus Valley Civilization, and for 5,000 years it has remained utterly silent. No one on Earth can read what it says. Thousands of these seals have been found in the ruins of their great cities, but the most confounding of all was discovered here, in the royal graves of Ur, in Mesopotamia, over 1,000 miles from its home. How did this tiny, silent key to a lost civilization end up in the heart of another? The answer is a story of immense distance, incredible sophistication, and an ancient trade network that challenges everything we thought we knew about the Bronze Age. In the 3rd millennium BC, the world of civilized man was dominated by a triumvirate of giants. In the west, the pharaohs of Egypt were building their eternal pyramids. In the heart of the Near East, the kings of Mesopotamia were raising the first great ziggurats. And to the east, spanning an area larger than both its rivals combined, was the third and most mysterious of these pristine civilizations, the Indus Valley, or Harappan civilization. For centuries, it was a ghost of history, its cities buried and forgotten. But when archaeologists unearthed its great metropolises, like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, the mystery only deepened. They found cities of stunning sophistication, with meticulously planned grid-like streets, advanced urban sanitation, and a degree of standardization in bricks and measures that was unparalleled in the ancient world. But they also found a series of profound absences. They found no grand palaces for kings, no monumental temples to the gods, no lavish royal tombs filled with ostentatious displays of wealth. This was a civilization that possessed all the hallmarks of a major power: great cities, a large population, a written script, but it seemed to lack the very institutions of kingship and warfare that defined its contemporaries. It was an enigma, a civilization built on a different model, a different ideology. With no royal histories to read, how do we decode the source of their power? The answer lies in the most common, yet most profound artifact they left behind: the small square soapstone seal. These were not mere amulets or works of art. This investigation will reveal that these seals were the sophisticated administrative technology at the heart of the Harappan world, a combination of corporate logo, bill of lading, and personal signature that powered one of the first great international trading economies. These seals are our economic Rosetta Stone, the key to understanding a civilization that was built not on the power of the sword, but on the principles of commerce. Our journey will follow the trail of these enigmatic objects. First, we will explore the unique, orderly world of the Harappans themselves. We will then deconstruct the seal as a piece of technology, showing how this simple-looking stamp was a brilliant solution to the problem of managing a complex economy. We will follow the archaeological breadcrumbs, the trail of seals and other trade goods that leads across the Arabian Sea and into the heart of Mesopotamia, the irrefutable proof of a vibrant, long-distance maritime trade. We will reconstruct the ghost commodities, the precious, perishable goods that these seals were used to secure. Finally, we will explore the Great Decline and ask why this vast and sophisticated economic network simply vanished, leaving its greatest secrets locked behind an unreadable script. For nearly a century, our understanding of the dawn of civilization was a story of two great rivers, the Nile and the Tigris-Euphrates. But in the 1920s, a stunning archaeological discovery in British India shattered this simple picture. Beneath the dusty plains of modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, a third great Bronze Age civilization was unearthed, a ghost on the map of history, brought back to light. This was the Indus Valley, or Harappan civilization, and it was a giant. At its peak, it was the most geographically extensive of the three pristine civilizations, its territory stretching over 1 million square kilometers, an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. Its story, however, is one of the most profound mysteries in all of ancient history, for it is a story of a civilization that possessed all the complexity of a great empire, yet seems to be missing the one thing every other ancient empire had: a king. The twin hearts of this lost world were the two great metropolises of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. These were not the chaotic, organically grown cities of their contemporaries. They were masterpieces of urban planning, cities laid out on a meticulous grid system that speaks to a sophisticated, centralized authority. Each city was dominated by a raised, fortified western mound, which archaeologists call the citadel, and a much larger, lower town where the bulk of the population lived. The sheer scale is breathtaking. Mohenjo-Daro, at its peak, may have housed as many as 40,000 people, making it one of the largest cities on Earth. And this urban planning was replicated, with local variations, across hundreds of other smaller settlements throughout the valley. This was a culture of order, logic, and immense organizational capability. The most striking feature of this planned economy is the standardization of its most basic building block, the mud brick. Across a territory that spans the modern equivalent of France, Germany, and the UK combined, Harappan bricks were baked to a near-universal, standardized size ratio of 4:2:1. This is a feat of industrial-scale production and unprecedented quality control. It implies a single, unified system of weights and measures, a shared understanding of engineering, and a centrally managed economic or ideological system powerful enough to enforce these standards over a vast domain. It is the first powerful clue that we are dealing with a society where order and administration were paramount. But the Harappan genius for engineering went far beyond simple bricks. Their management of water was a marvel of the ancient world. While Mesopotamia and Egypt built monumental canals for irrigation, the Harappans focused their engineering on the individual and the city. Nearly every major house in Mohenjo-Daro had its own well, bathroom, and a sophisticated sanitation system, with clay pipes that carried wastewater away from the home and into a complex network of covered, brick-lined drains that ran beneath the main streets. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro is the ultimate expression of this hydraulic skill. It is a massive, sunken pool built with perfectly fitted baked bricks and sealed with a waterproof layer of natural bitumen. It is a masterpiece of hydraulic engineering, likely used for public ritual, and a public works project on a scale that would have required immense planning and the mobilization of a vast, specialized workforce. The level of civic planning, particularly in sanitation, would not be seen again in human history for thousands of years. And yet, as we walk these silent, orderly streets, we are confronted not by what is there, but by what is profoundly missing. In Mesopotamia, the heart of the city was the grand palace of the king, the symbol of secular power, and the soaring ziggurat of the city's patron god. In Egypt, the landscape was dominated by the monumental pyramids and temples, all built to glorify the divine pharaoh. In the Indus Valley, we find none of this. There are no identifiable grand palaces. There are no massive state-sponsored temples. Most telling of all, there are no royal tombs. While the graves of Mesopotamia and Egypt are filled with the ostentatious, almost unimaginable wealth of their kings, the gold of the treasures of Tutankhamun, the Harappan graves are remarkably simple and egalitarian, showing little differentiation in wealth. Furthermore, the evidence for endemic warfare, the very engine of state formation in other parts of the world, is conspicuously thin. We find few weapons. Their art depicts not scenes of conquest and smiting enemies, but scenes of animals, of ritual, and of daily life. The cities, while often fortified, seem designed more for flood control and the management of trade than for withstanding a massive military siege. This presents us with a profound historical enigma, a civilization of immense size, complexity, and organization, but one that seems to lack the very institutions that we believed were necessary for a state to exist: a divine king, a powerful priesthood, and a standing army. So who was in charge? What force held this vast, standardized civilization together for over half a millennium? Was it a collective of anonymous priests governing through ritual? Was it a council of clan leaders? Or was it something else entirely? The most powerful clues we have lie in the thousands of tiny, intricate seals found in every home and every workshop. These are not royal crests or religious icons. As we will see, they are tools of administration and commerce. The very order, standardization, and peacefulness of the Harappan world may be the clues that point to its true nature, a civilization built not on the authority of kings and generals, but on the powerful organizing logic of a vast and sophisticated economy. To decode the Harappan economy, we must begin with its most ubiquitous and enigmatic artifact, the steatite seal. At first glance, these small objects, most no larger than a postage stamp, seem to be miniature works of art. They are carved with a grace and precision that is astonishing, depicting a world of powerful animals, mythological creatures, and complex ritual scenes. But to focus only on their beauty is to miss their true purpose. These seals were not primarily decorative. They were the workhorses of the Indus Valley administration, a brilliant and highly sophisticated piece of technology designed to solve the fundamental problems of a complex, large-scale economy: ownership, security, and accountability. The Harappan seal was a key, a lock, and a signature, all rolled into one. The typical seal was carved from steatite, or soapstone, a soft talc schist that was easy to work. After the intricate design was incised into its face in negative relief, the seal was fired at a high temperature. This process hardened the soft stone, turning it into a durable, white, ceramic-like material with a lustrous protective glaze. This was a crucial technological step. It transformed a fragile, easily altered object into a robust, permanent tool, capable of making thousands of impressions without wear. On the reverse of each seal was a perforated boss, a small carved hump with a hole drilled through it. This allowed the seal to be worn on a string, perhaps around the neck or wrist, keeping this vital tool of personal and economic identity with its owner at all times. The true genius of the seal, however, was not the object itself, but the impression it created. The seals were stamps, designed to be pressed into a soft, pliable material, most often a lump of wet clay. Archaeologists have found hundreds of these clay seal impressions, or bullae, often preserved by being accidentally fired in ancient conflagrations. And it is on these impressions that the true function of the seals is revealed. Many of these clay tags have impressions of woven cloth or reeds on their reverse side. This is the undeniable proof of their use. A Harappan merchant, preparing a bale of cotton textiles for shipment, would wrap the bundle in cloth and tie it securely with rope. He would then place a lump of wet clay over the knot and impress it with his personal seal. The clay would dry, creating a hard, tamper-proof security tag. The only way to open the bale would be to break the seal impression. This simple act was a revolutionary administrative innovation. The unbroken seal impression served as a guarantee to the recipient that the goods had not been tampered with on their long journey. It was a mark of authenticity, a way of ensuring that the quantity and quality of the goods that left the producer's warehouse were the same as those that arrived at the buyer's destination. It was the ancient world's first tamper-evident packaging, a crucial technology for building the trust that is the bedrock of any long-distance trade. But the seal did more than just secure the goods. It identified the owner. Each of the thousands of seals discovered is unique. While they share a common style and a common set of animal motifs, the combination of the image and the line of script above it is always distinct. This means that each seal was a unique identifier, a personal or corporate signature. When a merchant in Mohenjo-Daro received a bale of goods from a supplier in Harappa, he could tell, simply by looking at the seal impression, exactly who had sent it. It was a system of branding and accountability. If the goods were of high quality, he knew who to order from again. If they were substandard, he knew who to blame. This system was the backbone of the entire Harappan supply chain, a simple but brilliant tool for managing the complex economic relationships between producers, merchants, and consumers across a vast territory. The seals were likely also used to control access. A seal impression could be placed on the clay that sealed the door of a granary, a warehouse, or a private storeroom. An official in charge of the great granary at Harappa could lock the doors, place his seal upon the lock, and be certain that no one could enter without his knowledge. An unbroken seal meant the contents were secure. A broken seal was immediate evidence of unauthorized entry. In a society that seemed to lack the overt military and police power of its contemporaries, this system of administrative control and accountability may have been the primary tool for maintaining order and managing the civic economy. The images carved on the seals themselves, the powerful bulls, the mythical unicorns, the enigmatic ritual scenes, were not just decoration. They were likely the logos of powerful individuals, merchant families, trade guilds, or perhaps even city administrations. They were the corporate brands of the Bronze Age, each one a unique symbol of a specific economic entity. The silent, elegant script above the image likely named that entity. While we cannot yet read the names, we can understand the system. It was a sophisticated technology of identity and security, a tool that was absolutely essential for managing the production, storage, and long-distance trade of goods in a complex, urban, and geographically widespread civilization. The Harappan seal is a key, a tool that unlocks the function of their economy, but it is a key to a lock that we still cannot turn. Above the powerful animal motifs on almost every seal lies a short, elegant inscription. This is the Indus script, the writing system of this great civilization, and it is one of the most significant and frustrating mysteries in all of ancient history. For over a century since its discovery, the world's finest linguists, epigraphers, and computer scientists have attempted to crack its code. All have failed. The Harappans, for all their sophistication, remain a people without a voice. This profound silence is what makes the archaeological context of their ancient trade so absolutely critical. With their words lost to us, we must learn to read their actions. The challenge of decipherment is immense, a perfect storm of linguistic and archaeological obstacles. The first and most significant problem is the lack of a Rosetta Stone. The key to cracking Egyptian hieroglyphs was the discovery of a single inscription that bore the same text in 3 known languages. For the Indus script, no such multilingual text has ever been found. There is no Harappan Sumerian bilingual tablet, no convenient key to unlock the meaning of the symbols. We are working in a complete vacuum. We do not even know for certain what language family the Indus script represents. Was it an early form of the Dravidian languages still spoken in southern India? Was it an ancestor of the Indo-Aryan languages that would later dominate the subcontinent? Or was it a complete linguistic isolate, a language with no surviving relatives? Without this fundamental piece of information, decipherment is like trying to solve a crossword puzzle where you don't know the language. The second major problem is the nature of the inscriptions themselves. They are overwhelmingly short. The average inscription is only about 5 symbols long. The longest one ever found is a mere 26 symbols. This is a stark contrast to other ancient scripts. In Egypt and Mesopotamia, we have vast libraries of texts, long royal histories, epic poems, complex religious rituals, legal codes, and mundane administrative records. From the Indus Valley, we have none of this. There are no books, no long inscriptions on temple walls, no letters written on papyrus or clay. The entire body of this lost language consists of a few thousand of these short, enigmatic phrases, repeated over and over again on the faces of the seals. What can we deduce from this? The brevity and the context of the inscriptions, found almost exclusively on these administrative seals, strongly suggest that the script was not used for literature or history. Its purpose was overwhelmingly economic and administrative. This is the broad consensus of most scholars. The symbols likely represent personal names, official titles, the names of merchant families or trade guilds, or perhaps the names of the commodities being traded. The script was a tool of the economy, a way of labeling goods and identifying their owners. This is both a frustrating limitation and a powerful clue. It tells us that the very act of writing for the Harappans was born from the practical necessities of managing a complex system of trade and production. Despite the lack of a full decipherment, scholars have made some progress. Through statistical and computational analysis, we know that the script almost certainly reads from right to left, as the symbols on the right are often slightly compressed on the left as a carver ran out of space. We have identified several hundred unique signs, a number that is too large for a simple alphabet, but too small for a purely pictographic system, suggesting it's a logosyllabic script, a complex mix of symbols representing both whole words and phonetic syllables, much like Mesopotamian cuneiform. We can identify frequently used signs and patterns, some of which may represent common titles or place names. But what we cannot yet do is assign sound or meaning to these symbols. The unicorn on the seal might be a symbol of a specific powerful clan, and the script above it might read, "The House of Arish," but we simply do not know. This silence is what makes the archaeological trail of the seals so incredibly important. It is the only other language the Harappans can speak to us. While the script is a locked box, the journey of the seals themselves is a story we can read with clarity. By following the physical path of these objects, we can reconstruct the vast network of their ancient trade. We can see which foreign powers they were in contact with. We can map the reach of their commercial empire, and we can deduce the scale of their economic power. The seals as objects have become the primary text. Their silence as a script forces us to look even more closely at their function as a technology, the silent, efficient engines of a lost economic world. For a civilization whose script we cannot read, the objects they left behind are their only voice. And for decades, those objects seem to speak only of a sophisticated but isolated world, a great civilization that rose and fell in its own self-contained river valley. But a series of stunning archaeological discoveries, made not in India or Pakistan, but in the sands of modern-day Iraq, would shatter this picture of isolation forever. Deep within the ruins of the great Sumerian and Akkadian cities, archaeologists began to find objects that did not belong. Distinctive, square seals bearing the image of a unicorn and the elegant, unreadable script of the Indus Valley. This was the irrefutable physical proof of long-distance contact. Following the trail of these seals would allow us to chart the course of one of the most important and extensive maritime trade networks of the Bronze Age. The discoveries were electrifying. When Sir Leonard Woolley was excavating the royal cemetery at the very heart of Mesopotamian power and wealth, he found several classic square Harappan seals. He also found other hybrid seals. Some were round, the preferred shape in the Persian Gulf, but were carved with the distinctive Harappan unicorn motif in script. Even more telling, he unearthed necklaces containing beads of a very specific type, long, barrel-shaped beads of carnelian, a reddish semi-precious stone decorated with a unique bleached or etched white pattern. This was a signature, high-tech luxury good of the Indus Valley. To find these objects in the richest tombs of Mesopotamia was the equivalent of finding a Swiss watch in the treasure chest of a 17th-century Chinese emperor. It was the smoking gun, the undeniable evidence of a sophisticated, high-value ancient trade relationship. These were not isolated finds. Over the decades, more and more Harappan artifacts have been unearthed across the Near East. They have been found at major Mesopotamian centers like Kish, Eshnunna, and Lagash. They have been discovered at sites in Iran and, most importantly, all along the trade routes of the Persian Gulf, at sites in modern-day Bahrain, Oman, and the UAE. When archaeologists plot these finds on a map, the conclusion is inescapable. This was not a story of a few random overland contacts. This was the clear footprint of a major, well-established, and primarily maritime supply chain. The likely route of this great trade is now clear. Harappan ships, likely built from the teak and rosewood of the Indian subcontinent, would have departed from major, purpose-built port cities like Lothal in modern-day Gujarat. The ruins at Lothal are remarkable, featuring what is believed to be the world's earliest known man-made dockyard, a massive brick-lined basin connected by a channel to a nearby river. From here, these sturdy, square-sailed vessels would have begun their epic journey. They were not just coastal sailors, they were masters of the open ocean. They would have sailed westwards, across the Arabian Sea, following the coastline of modern-day Pakistan and Iran. This was a perilous journey of over 1,000 miles, requiring sophisticated navigational skills and a deep understanding of the region's seasonal monsoon winds. Along the way, they would have stopped at the intermediary ports of the Persian Gulf, a region known to the Mesopotamians as Dilmun, likely modern Bahrain. Dilmun was a great commercial nexus, a neutral territory where merchants from different civilizations could meet and trade. Here, the Harappans would have traded their goods with the local Dilmunite merchants, who in turn controlled the final, lucrative leg of the journey up the Gulf and into the rivers of Mesopotamia. The presence of the Harappan seals in Mesopotamia speaks volumes about the nature of this trade. Some seals may have belonged to Harappan merchants who were physically living in expatriate communities within the Sumerian cities, managing their business interests abroad. But the discovery of the clay seal impressions tells a different story. When an archaeologist in finds a clay tag bearing a Harappan seal impression that once was attached to a now-vanished bale of goods, it means that the system of Harappan administrative technology was understood and respected by their Mesopotamian trading partners. A Sumerian merchant, upon receiving a sealed bale from the Indus Valley, would have recognized it as a guarantee of authenticity. The seal was the symbol of the Harappan brand, a mark of a professional, reliable, and sophisticated commercial enterprise whose business practices were respected across the entire region. This connection, proven by the trail of the seals, rewrites the history of the Bronze Age economy. It reveals a world that was far more globalized than previously imagined. This was not a world of three isolated civilizations, but a deeply interconnected economic sphere linked by a vast and challenging maritime network. The Harappan seals, in their silent, elegant script, tell a story not of kings and gods, but of contracts, of shipments, of quality control, and of trust. They are the artifacts that allow us to decode a lost chapter in the history of trade, a chapter written not on clay tablets, but on the vast, open waters of the Arabian Sea. The Trail of the Seals provides the undeniable map of the Harappan trade network. It is the physical proof of a connection, a system of security and administration that spanned 1,000 miles of open ocean. But the seals and the broken clay tags are just the packaging. They are the ancient equivalent of a branded cardboard box, a silent witness to a transaction whose actual contents have long since vanished. The vast majority of the goods that traveled along these Bronze Age sea lanes were organic and perishable. Time has consumed them, leaving us with a profound mystery. What were the ghost commodities that made this entire, vast, and sophisticated economy profitable? To answer this, we must become archaeological detectives, piecing together clues from diverse fields to reconstruct the lost cargo of the Indus Valley. The most likely candidate for the primary Harappan export, the blockbuster product that drove their trade with Mesopotamia, was cotton. The Indus Valley was one of the first places on Earth where the cotton print was domesticated, and the Harappans were the world's first great masters of textile production. Archaeological evidence from sites like Mohenjo-Daro has unearthed some of the earliest known fragments of cotton cloth, along with the tools of a massive textile industry. Countless spindle whorls for spinning thread, and terracotta loom weights for weaving fabric. Statues and figurines from the period depict people wearing intricately patterned robes, suggesting a sophisticated knowledge of dyeing and design. The Harappans were, in essence, the textile powerhouse of the Bronze Age. For the Mesopotamians, who primarily used wool and linen, Harappan cotton would have been a revolutionary and highly desirable import. It was lightweight, breathable, and comfortable in the hot climate of the Near East. It could also be dyed with a vibrancy that was difficult to achieve on wool. Fine, brightly colored cotton textiles from the Indus would have been a high-end luxury good, a status symbol for the Sumerian elite. While the cloth itself has almost entirely decayed, we have a crucial piece of secondary evidence. The clay seal impressions, the bulle, often retain the imprint of the material they were pressed against, and on many of these impressions from both the Indus Valley and from Mesopotamian sites, we can clearly see the microscopic telltale weave of ancient cotton cloth. The seals were not just securing random bundles, they were securing bales of the very textiles that were the heart of the Harappan export economy. A second major export was likely high-quality exotic timber. The Indus Valley and its hinterlands were rich in valuable woods that were completely absent in the sparse, reed-filled river valleys of Mesopotamia. Texts from Mesopotamian kings speak of importing rare, dark woods for the construction of their temples and palaces. One of the most prized was a wood they called magan, which archaeologists now believe may be a form of rosewood or other hardwoods from the Indian subcontinent. Harappan ships with their large cargo holds were the perfect vehicles for transporting these heavy, bulky logs. The wealth of the Indus was not just in what they could make, but in the rich natural resources they controlled. Another signature product of the Harappan export economy was carnelian beads. Carnelian, a semi-precious reddish-orange stone, was mined extensively by the Harappans, particularly in the region of modern Gujarat. But their craftsmen developed a unique and highly advanced technology for working it. They learned to drill incredibly long, thin, perfect holes through the hard stone, creating beautiful, long barrel beads that were impossible for other cultures to replicate. They also perfected a technique of etching or bleaching the beads with an alkali paste to create intricate white patterns, a high-tech decorative art. These distinctive beads were a Harappan trademark, a product of immense beauty and technical skill. Their discovery in the royal tombs of is one of the most definitive pieces of evidence for a high-value luxury goods trade between the two civilizations. Other more exotic goods likely completed the cargo. Ivory was a major Harappan industry. They had access to the Indian elephant, and their workshops produced a wide range of ivory products, from combs and ornaments to intricate game pieces. Ivory objects, clearly of Harappan origin, have also been found in Mesopotamia. There is also evidence for the trade in live exotic animals. Mesopotamian texts and art depict peacocks, a bird native only to the Indian subcontinent. It is highly likely that these beautiful, exotic birds, a symbol of immense luxury, were first brought to the West by Harappan merchants. On their return journey, the Harappan ships would not have been empty. They were likely filled with the goods of Mesopotamia and the Persian Gulf. They would have imported Mesopotamian woolen textiles and perhaps silver, which was more common in Anatolia and the West. From the ports of Dilmun, in the Gulf, they would have acquired another vital commodity, copper. The vast copper mines of ancient Oman were a primary source for the entire region, and the Harappans, with their advanced bronze casting industry, would have been major consumers. This was truly a two-way ancient trade, a complex exchange of raw materials, manufactured goods, and luxury items that enriched both sides. But for the Harappans, it was their unique high-value exports, the ghost commodity of cotton, the beautiful woods, and the high-tech carnelian beads that gave them their competitive edge in the world's first great maritime economy. The Harappan seals and the trail of their artifacts provide a powerful but silent testament to their vast trading network. It is a story told in stone, clay, and carnelian. But to truly bring this lost economic world to life, we need to find its voice. Since we cannot read the Harappan script, we must turn to the one civilization from that period that wrote everything down, Mesopotamia. Buried within the thousands of cuneiform clay tablets unearthed in Iraq, in the royal inscriptions of kings and the mundane ledgers of merchants, we find tantalizing references to a distant, powerful, and fabulously wealthy trading partner. They called this land Meluha. For decades, the location of Meluha was a mystery, but a convergence of textual and archaeological evidence now allows us to say with near certainty, when the Sumerians wrote of Meluha, they were writing about the Indus Valley. The earliest references to Meluha appear in the inscriptions of the great Akkadian king Sargon the Great around 2300 BC. Boasting of his power and the reach of his empire, Sargon proudly declares that ships from Meluha, alongside ships from Magan, Oman, and Dilmun, Bahrain, were moored at the docks of his capital, Akkad. This is not a myth. It is a clear, contemporary statement of international maritime trade. It tells us that, even at this early date, a great civilization to the east was already engaged in a direct sea-based commercial relationship with Mesopotamia. The inscription places Meluha as the most distant and most important of these trading partners. The cuneiform texts provide a detailed shopping list of the goods that came from this distant land. The imports from Meluha were overwhelmingly high-value luxury goods. The texts speak of exotic woods like blackwood or rosewood, of gold, of copper, and most frequently of carnelian, particularly the long, distinctive etched carnelian beads that are a unique hallmark of Indus Valley craftsmanship. They also mention ivory and, in some cases, live birds. This list of Meluhan exports matches with astonishing precision the very ghost commodities that archaeologists have deduced were the primary exports of the Indus Valley. The textual evidence from Mesopotamia perfectly corroborates the archaeological evidence from both regions. The story gets even more compelling. Cuneiform texts describe the existence of a Meluha village, or a Meluhan quarter, on the outskirts of the Sumerian city of Lagash. This was, in essence, an expatriate community, an enclave of foreign merchants who lived and worked in Mesopotamia, likely acting as the agents and translators for the seafaring traders from their homeland. This single reference gives us a vivid glimpse into the human reality of this ancient trade. We can imagine Harappan merchants, 1,000 miles from home, living in a community of their own people, navigating the complex culture of a foreign land, and managing the immensely profitable but difficult business of the import-export economy. The presence of a permanent community suggests a trade that was not occasional or ad hoc, but stable, regular, and deeply embedded in the economic life of the Mesopotamian cities. The texts also provide clues about the people themselves. The Sumerians described the people of Meluhha as the people of the Black Land, a name that has often been a source of confusion, but it likely refers to the dark, fertile alluvial soil of the Indus River plain, or perhaps to the skin color of the Dravidian-speaking peoples who likely formed the bulk of the Harappan population. In the Curse of Akkad, a Mesopotamian poem, the people of Meluhha are described as bringing exotic wares to the great city, a clear reference to their role as merchants of the exotic. The identification of Meluhha with the Indus Valley is now the consensus view among most archaeologists and Assyriologists. The evidence is simply too strong to ignore. The timeline matches perfectly, the list of exported goods is an exact match, the existence of a sea-based trade route is confirmed by both the texts and the archaeological finds in the Persian Gulf, and the presence of Harappan artifacts in Mesopotamia and Mesopotamian artifacts in the Indus Valley, such as a few Mesopotamian cylinder seals, confirms a direct two-way relationship. This identification is a breakthrough of immense importance. It finally gives a voice, albeit a second-hand one, to the silent civilization of the Indus. It confirms, from the perspective of their most important trading partner, that the Harappans were a major power in the world of international trade. They were not a mysterious, isolated kingdom. They were the Meluhhans, the famous and respected merchants from the Black Land, whose ships brought the most desirable luxury goods to the cradle of civilization. The cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia provide the missing half of the conversation, the external validation that allows us to see the Harappan economy not just as a local phenomenon, but as a key pillar of the first globalized world. The trail of the seals and the Mesopotamian texts have proven the existence of a vast international trade network. But a successful economy, especially one of such immense scale, requires more than just goods to sell. It requires a system. It needs rules, regulations, and a shared foundation of trust that allows for fair and predictable transactions between people separated by hundreds, even thousands of miles. The most remarkable and mysterious aspect of the Indus Valley Civilization is the evidence for an almost obsessive preoccupation with order, precision, and above all, standardization. From the bricks of their cities to the weights in their markets, the Harappan world was built upon a unified system of control, a level of economic integration that was unparalleled in the Bronze Age. But who or what was the source of this incredible order? The most powerful evidence for this system comes from a seemingly humble set of artifacts, the Harappan weights. Archaeologists have discovered thousands of these objects at sites spanning the entire breadth of the civilization. They are almost always perfect cubes, exquisitely crafted from a hard, beautiful, and difficult-to-work chert. But their true genius lies in their mathematical precision. They follow a complex, standardized binary and decimal system. The base unit is approximately 13.6 grams. The smaller weights are fractions of this: 1/16, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, while the larger weights are multiples: 2, 4, 10, 100. The level of accuracy is astonishing. A 10-unit weight found in Mohenjo-Daro will be almost exactly the same as a 10-unit weight found in Lothal, 400 miles away. This was a unified system of weights and measures that was respected and enforced across a territory larger than Egypt or Mesopotamia. The economic implications of this are profound. It means that a merchant in a northern city could be certain that he was getting a fair measure of grain or gold from a supplier in a southern port. It standardized transactions, eliminated disputes, and created the trust and predictability that are the essential lubricants of a large-scale economy. This was not a chaotic bazaar of haggling and guesswork. It was a regulated marketplace, a sophisticated commercial environment that would not be seen again on this scale for over 1,000 years. This system of weights, inextricably linked to the seals that secured the goods being weighed, was the fundamental hardware of the Harappan economic administration. This obsession with precision extended to almost every aspect of their material culture. We have already seen the stunning uniformity of their bricks, but it is also seen in the production of their signature luxury goods. The long, barrel-shaped carnelian beads, their most valuable export, were produced to standardized lengths. The bronze tools they cast, from axe heads to razors, were made in uniform styles across the entire civilization. This suggests a highly organized and integrated production system. It is likely that different cities and regions specialized in different crafts, bead-making in Lothal, shell-working on the coast, but they were all working within a shared system of measurement and, presumably, a shared network of distribution. This raises the great central mystery of the Indus Valley Civilization. Who was the enforcer? In Mesopotamia, such standardization was the product of royal decree. The king, as the supreme authority, set the weights and measures for his kingdom. In Egypt, the divine pharaoh's bureaucracy managed every aspect of the state economy. But in the Indus Valley, we find no kings, no pharaohs. So, who or what was the central authority that ensured a merchant in a remote village used the exact same weight system as a trader in the capital? One theory is that the Harappan world was governed by a priestly class. Perhaps the occupants of the citadels were not kings, but anonymous priest rulers who maintained order through the strict enforcement of religious and ritual purity. In this model, the standardization of weights and measures would have been a sacred, divinely ordained system, and to cheat the system would be to commit a sin. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, a place of clear ritual importance, may have been the center of such a cult. Another theory suggests a republic of elites, a council of powerful clan leaders or wealthy merchant families from the different cities who collectively governed the civilization and agreed upon a common set of economic rules for their mutual benefit. A third and perhaps most intriguing theory is that the standardization was not enforced from the top down by a state at all, but instead was a product of the economic system itself. In this model, the powerful and highly organized merchant guilds were the primary drivers of order. For long-distance trade to function, they needed a common language of commerce. They may have collectively developed and enforced the system of weights and seals as a form of self-regulation, a chamber of commerce for the Bronze Age. The authority would not have been political, but economic. A merchant who did not adhere to the standard would be ostracized from the network, unable to trade, a punishment more effective than any royal decree. Whichever model is correct, the conclusion is the same. The Indus Valley Civilization represents a unique experiment in social and economic organization. The evidence of the seals and the astonishing standardization of their material world points to a civilization where the logic of order, precision, and economic efficiency was the supreme governing principle. They were a people who built their world not around the whims of a king or the glory of a god, but around the elegant mathematical certainty of a perfectly balanced scale. For nearly 700 years, the Indus Valley Civilization had been a marvel of stability, order, and prosperity. Its vast interconnected economy, managed by the elegant technology of its seals, stretched from the foothills of the Himalayas to the shores of the Arabian Sea and beyond. But beginning around 1900 BC, this magnificent and resilient civilization entered a period of terminal decline. The great cities began to empty, the script disappeared, The sophisticated system of weights and measures fell into disuse, and the long-distance trade with Mesopotamia ceased. The collapse of the Harappan world is one of the most profound mysteries in ancient history. There was no single cataclysmic event, no invading army that toppled its walls. Instead, it seems to have been a slow, inexorable unraveling, a system's collapse driven not by the sword, but by the subtle and ultimately more powerful forces of nature and a changing global economy. For many years, the leading theory for the collapse was a dramatic, violent invasion. The ancient Hindu scriptures of the Rig Veda speak of the Aryan god Indra destroying great walled cities. Early archaeologists like Mortimer Wheeler discovered skeletons in the upper layers of Mohenjo-Daro that seemed to be the victims of a final, bloody massacre. This Aryan invasion theory was a simple and compelling narrative. It suggested that waves of Indo-European-speaking warriors with their horse-drawn chariots swept down from the north and violently overthrew the peaceful urban civilization of the Indus. However, modern archaeology has largely discredited this view. The massacre skeletons have been shown to be simple burials, not the victims of a single battle. There is no widespread evidence of burning or destruction at the major sites consistent with a massive military conquest. While migrations of new peoples into the region certainly occurred, the idea of a single violent invasion as the primary cause of collapse is no longer supported by the evidence. Other theories have pointed to localized catastrophic events. The Indus River is a notoriously volatile and powerful force. Some scholars have suggested that a massive earthquake could have altered the river's course or created a natural dam that catastrophically flooded Mohenjo-Daro, the civilization's largest city. There is indeed evidence for major flood events at the site. But while a flood could certainly devastate a single city, it fails to explain the simultaneous and widespread decline of the entire civilization across 1 million square kilometers, from the coast to the northern plains. The cause had to be something far larger, a force that could affect the entire system. The most compelling and widely accepted theory today is one of climate change. For centuries, the Harappan civilization had been blessed by a strong and reliable monsoon season, but paleoclimatological evidence gathered from the analysis of lakebed sediments and cave stalagmites points to a major climatic shift beginning around the end of the 3rd millennium BC. The monsoons, the lifeblood of South Asian agriculture, began to weaken, becoming less predictable and less powerful. This would have had a devastating impact on the Harappan agricultural economy, the very foundation of their urban society. Less rainfall meant lower crop yields, a shrinking agricultural surplus, and a growing inability to feed the massive populations of the great cities. This general drying trend was compounded by a more specific and even more catastrophic geological event. The Harappan civilization was not just built on the Indus, it was also built on a second, parallel river system to the east, the Ghaggar-Hakra, a river that many scholars identify with the mythical Saraswati River of the Vedas. This was a massive glacier-fed river that created a second fertile corridor. But geological evidence suggests that, due to tectonic shifts at the headwaters, the river's main tributaries were captured by the neighboring Yamuna and Sutlej river systems. The Ghaggar-Hakra, starved of its water source, began to dry up. Over the course of a few generations, a once mighty river simply vanished, turning a vast fertile plain into an arid desert. This was an ecological disaster of unimaginable proportions. The cities and towns along its banks had to be abandoned. The agricultural heartland of the civilization was decimated. Faced with this environmental crisis, the great centrally organized economy of the Harappans could not hold. The surplus that had funded the urban specialists, the long-distance trade, and the complex civic infrastructure simply disappeared. At the same time, their primary international trading partner, Mesopotamia, was also undergoing a period of political instability, disrupting the lucrative maritime trade that had brought in so much wealth. It was a perfect storm. The internal economic engine was sputtering due to agricultural failure, and the external economic engine was failing due to instability abroad. The result was a slow, inexorable de-urbanization. The great cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were slowly abandoned, their populations dispersing into smaller, more sustainable rural villages. The sophisticated technologies of the urban age, the script, the system of weights, the seals themselves, were no longer needed to manage a simpler, more localized economy, and so they were forgotten. The civilization did not die in a great fire, it simply decentralized, its complexity dissolving as it adapted to a poorer, drier, and less predictable world. Our investigation began with a single enigmatic object, a small, intricately carved stone seal, a key to a civilization whose words are lost to us. We sought to understand the purpose of these thousands of unique seals and the nature of the society that created them. Having journeyed through the silent, orderly streets of Mohenjo-Daro, deconstructed the brilliant technology of the seals themselves, and followed their faint but undeniable trail across the sea to Mesopotamia, the evidence allows for a clear and powerful verdict. The Harappan seals are the administrative backbone of a vast, sophisticated, and highly organized economy built on the principles of standardization and long-distance trade. They are the key that unlocks the central mystery of the Indus Valley, revealing a civilization whose primary source of power was not a king's crown or a priest's prayer, but the masterful control of commerce. We have established that the Harappan seals were not mere works of art, but a revolutionary administrative technology. They were a combination of a corporate logo, a personal signature, and a tamper-proof security device. Their use in sealing goods for shipment is irrefutable, proven by the imprints of cloth and rope on the clay tags they created. This system provided the essential ingredients for a large-scale economy: accountability, security, and trust. Our investigation has definitively proven that this economy was not an isolated, local affair. The discovery of dozens of Harappan seals, beads, and other artifacts in the great cities of Mesopotamia is the smoking gun that confirms a vibrant, long-distance maritime trade network stretching over 1,000 miles. We have shown that this was not a one-sided, primitive exchange. The textual evidence from Mesopotamia, speaking of the wealthy and respected merchants from the land of Meluha, corroborates the archaeological finds, painting a picture of a peer-to-peer relationship between two of the world's great Bronze Age powers. Furthermore, we have concluded that the entire Harappan system was built on an almost obsessive degree of order and standardization. The uniform bricks of their cities and, most importantly, their precise and universally adopted system of weights and measures were the essential software that allowed this vast commercial network to function so effectively. While the ultimate source of this authority, be it a council of priests, a merchant oligarchy, or some other unknown entity, remains a mystery, its effect is undeniable. It created a predictable and regulated marketplace on a continental scale, an achievement unparalleled in its time. Therefore, the final conclusion of our investigation is this: The Indus Valley Civilization presents a unique model of a great Bronze Age power, one that appears to have prioritized the logic of commerce and administration over the glorification of kings and gods. The seals are the ultimate symbol of this ethos. They are not monuments to individual rulers, but tools for the collective management of a complex economy. The evidence they provide, both in their function and their distribution, allow us to confidently identify the Harappan world as one of history's first great trading superpowers, a civilization whose quiet, orderly prosperity was built, piece by piece, on the strength of a small, square seal. The great cities of the Indus Valley have returned to the earth, their standardized bricks buried under the silt of millennia. The trade routes that once pulsed with the exchange of cotton and carnelian are gone, and the elegant script, the final secret of the Harappan world, remains stubbornly silent. The story of the Harappan seals is a story of a civilization that we can see with incredible clarity, yet cannot fully hear. Their legacy is therefore one of both profound insight and tantalizing mystery, a powerful lesson in the different forms a civilization can take, and a humbling reminder of the limits of our knowledge. The Indus Valley Civilization offers a startling and invaluable alternative model for the organization of a complex society. In a world where we have come to expect that the rise of civilization is synonymous with the rise of divine kings, monumental palaces, and glorious warfare, the Harappans present a different path. Theirs appears to be a civilization built on a foundation of order, planning, and above all, the logic of trade. The immense social cohesion required to build their cities and maintain their vast network seems to have been generated not by a charismatic ruler on a throne, but by the shared collective enterprise of a thriving economy. The Harappan world suggests that the forces of commerce and administration can be just as powerful a unifying principle as the command of a king or the doctrine of a priest. The seals themselves are the ultimate symbol of this unique ethos. While the Egyptians built pyramids to their god-kings and the Mesopotamians wrote epics of their heroes, the Harappans poured their greatest artistic and technological skill into the creation of these miniature administrative masterpieces. Their legacy is not one of individual glory, but of a sophisticated system. It is the legacy of a people who seem to value the integrity of a bale of cotton as much as other cultures valued the conquests of a king. This profound difference is perhaps their most important contribution to the story of human civilization, a demonstration that there is more than one way to build a world. And yet, we are left with the silence. The undeciphered script is the great locked door that stands between us and a true understanding of the Harappan mind. Contained within those few hundred elegant symbols are the names of their merchants, the titles of their leaders, perhaps the names of their gods, and the very language they spoke. To read the script would be to finally hear their voice, to understand their world not just through the lens of their economy, but through their own words. Its decipherment remains one of the great Everest-like challenges of modern archaeology, a prize of almost unimaginable historical value. Until that day comes, the seals remain our most eloquent and trusted guides. They are the tangible proof of a lost world of astonishing sophistication and reach. They are the keys that have allowed us to unlock the vast, forgotten network of their ancient trade and to reconstruct the economic foundations of their orderly world. They are the unread pages of a magnificent ledger, a silent testament to a civilization of commerce waiting patiently for the day when we can finally read what is written.